Hi everybody, I'm Mr. Item. I'm going to tell you a little bit about AP Biology. So there are four really big ideas that we go through in AP Biology that everything ties to. Evolution, different biological systems, information, how that gets stored, how that gets exchanged within an organism, between organisms, that sort of thing, how those systems interact. A lot of times we think ecology here. And we've broken up into different units. We started with molecules of life. We're just finished up cell structure. We're moving on now into cellular energetics. We'll move on to communication, heredity, gene expression. So the first four are what we focus on this first semester. The last four are what we focus on the last semester. And really, students may have to do a little bit on their own with ecology to prepare for the unit test. We just, sometimes things take a little longer. Again, this is AP Biology, and it's going to count towards their life science credits. One thing everybody pretty much already has and will need is an interactive notebook. We have the AP Biology Practice, the Barron's book. Most people have the 7th edition. If you've got the 6th edition, we can make that work, but the pages I give are for the 7th. You can totally use the textbook. You don't have to buy the Biology Barron's Study Guide, but it's a lot better. You can interact with it, write in it, and like 10 pages in the Barron's book is like 30 to 50 pages in the textbook, so it's a little bit more manageable. I think it's also written more at a high school level than the big textbook. One of the things you'll see, I have the pages on the pacing guide. I'll show you how to get the pacing guide so you can see what's there. And then we also have videos linked so they can go and watch that. So maybe they don't do the best just by reading. They also have videos to help them out. And mostly what we do in class are labs, discuss labs, and every now and then, maybe once a week, we lecture on kind of the more confusing things. So they really have to, at this pace, focus on getting most of the information on their own, unfortunately. We're doing 2 classes worth of work at UC Davis in 1 semester of high school. It's a lot, but people generally do well on the AP exam, and that's what I'm working to do, is prepare people for their AP exam. Let me go ahead and show you about the grading technique, and I'll get back to talking about the AP exam in a bit. So one thing you may have seen in science before, we're starting to really work with in the sciences, is doing this grading for equity model. And one of the things we start with is mathematically accurate. In a lot of classes, you go 90, 80, 70, 60, and so 59% of your grading scale is failing, and that doesn't seem right. So we score everything as a 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. That means the percentages in Q will be all messed up, and we're going to ignore those, and I'll talk about that. Knowledge over behavior. So the things that get graded are different than things that are scored. I score notebooks. I'll score, did you do a lab or a reading assignment or something like that. That will go in there. But a unit test, a lab report where I'm checking for understanding, a project, things that are showing your understanding individually, not as a group, that is what's going to be used to affect and determine your grade. And notice I didn't say calculate. I'm not averaging grades together. I'm using that most recent summative to determine the grade. And so let's take a look at a student. This student has an average of a 76. In a lot of classes, that's going to be a C plus. This student has an average of 59. In most classes, that's going to be a F, a D minus. Now, if I look a little bit more closely, on the test, this person didn't show their understanding. That could be 2 things. 1, they didn't understand. 2, they're not that great at taking tests. They did all their classwork, but classwork can be copied. You can use your notes. You can use all that sort of stuff. This person's kind of the opposite. They didn't really do their homework, but they're showing on their labs, on their quizzes, on their unit tests, they know a lot. This person, I'd get an F or a D, depending on if this lab right here was one of those that's a lab report formal. I'm checking all their learning. This one right here, definitely getting a B, all right? Solid B. And remember, I'm going to be looking at the most recent. So that's part of this growth mindset. Really common. You struggle on this first unit test. You get a D or a C. And then later on, the final, let's say you get an A. And so if you go from D to A, a lot of times in most classes, that's a C, all right? Maybe a B. In this class, that's going to be an A. You showed you understand. And along with that, unit tests aren't the only thing. We can do a project, and I'll talk more about projects later, but you could use a project where you're teaching me what you learned, you show me a different way, and I'm happy to put that in there. Tests aren't the most accurate thing. They're just a tool to show learning. All right, transparent to students and parents. When you go to Q, look at that most recent summative. That's what their grade is. If they don't have anything yet, they have no grade. Those quizzes on there, those things on there, those are just things they've completed. They're scores. Again, you can use notes on quizzes. You can work in groups as quizzes. You can do your homework and copy stuff. That doesn't show understanding. I'm most important with what shows understanding. Now, like I mentioned before, there's also going to be Google Classroom. You go to Google Classroom. Let me go to the right class, AP Biology, and go to Classwork. If you scroll all the way down, daily agenda right here is a slideshow that shows what they're doing in each class, what their homework is for the day, what we did that day, little warm-up questions. That's a good place to check, see how they're doing. Another thing to check, table of contents. It's just an Excel file that shows live what goes on what in their notebook. And as I mentioned before, AP stuff. I need to put that in class resources. Hold on a second. Well, apparently I don't have it down here yet, but I will have a little link so they can register for the exam. So registration is due March 7th. I showed them in class, but looks like I need to add it in here one more time. Must have been deleted. So thank you very much. I hope that was helpful. I feel like there's something else I'm missing. Let me look. Oh yeah, again, this building academic/life skills. In college, you usually have a midterm and a final. This is very similar. We have a couple summative exams. We do the labs to help us with our understanding, and you need to manage your time. If there's something like a piece of homework I give you and you don't have time for it that night, but you know you're going to have time the next night, that's totally okay. The late work thing is not a real thing. You get it done when you can so that you're prepared for the test. Now, if you don't get it done before the test, you're not prepared. That shows your lack of responsibility and your lack of understanding, and you pay for it that way, right? Some people don't have to do as much ahead of time as others. We want to give them that opportunity. I appreciate your time. Have a good night.